This is the tank tier list, so this is the one that I hopefully know the most about, considering I play tanks more than anything. I'm going to preface this, though, by saying every tank in the game right now is playable. Some situationally, some all the time. We will see how things end up, and I think I'll start with something that will probably surprise nobody. It's a Nara. I'm also going to say that this is leaning towards PPC gameplay for how I think these tanks should be tiered. You can take this into ranked if you want, but again, if you're good with the champ, anything's going to be good in ranked. Inara S tier, I think, surprised nobody. She bullies incredibly hard. She has 50% damage reduction on a cooldown. She can wall herself off. She can slow AoE. Great damage. 675 damage a shot to really bully someone out. Only 75 less damage than Barrack with a headshot. So she can really bully almost anybody. Great to be aggressive. Even just please don't run Cripple. She, with Mother's Grace, it's where she really shines. Even if Cripple would be good into that, it's better for you to just run Mother's Grace, get that extra 20% damage reduction, and gain the ability to remove every single counter from the game. There's any CC in the game, and most characters have some little baby form of CC. You just remove it. They literally cannot deal with you on Mother's Grace if you play smart. So definitely get used to that. Running that run people down if you want to play aggressive, or just sustain on point. She can do a little bit of everything. After that, now again, just to remind everybody, I am going to be, this is based on PPC, which is why this next pick probably will be weird, but aiming towards competitive. ROM as a champion, fantastic. I think even if you CC him and deal with him, he still gets in your backline. He still lives forever. I mean, we've seen in competitive when someone is behind, they're just getting chipped. They're taking a ton of damage, but living, distracting for so long that the rest of the team can engage. If you play with a good team, ROM will be phenomenal. Ultimate to counter some other things out. He can knock an Aura wall down. He can destroy Barrack Dome Shield. He can destroy any shield that gets in his way. I think great with that if you can play it. Just have to play smart with his cooldowns. You know, save your resets for that. Run the right build, I'd say. Get all that going, and ROM can do quite a bit. And I forget if I have Ashe in the S tier, so I'm going to put her here anyway because I can't remember. Ashe, also a great aggressive tank in the off lane, not really on point, but definitely bullies you out really hard. The shield goes in the way. She trades life into you really effectively with the lifesteal combined with her damage. Potentially around corners, potentially slug. She has a lot of versatility with her 3 talents. You can run all 3 in different situations. Slug for open maps, battering ram for the close maps where you might get dove, fortress for when you're against backlines and you can just win duels by throwing up shields. Ashe can kind of do it all and has a fantastic ultimate that can, you know, win you maps more or less if you use it effectively. Use it under a ceiling, you land way faster. Suddenly you can stun a bunch of people, be invincible in their face, do a ton of damage. Ashe does quite a bit. Definitely a great bully to run for that. Jumping to A+, which I added for this. And just to remind you again, all these tanks are going to be playable if you're good enough with them. Whoop. Atlas. Atlas with Deja Vu, I think, is a fantastic off tank. Big Shield can work too, but it's more for a competitive. Definitely more for competitive when you have a team that can really make the most use of it, and you have to, if you don't have a good shield, you're basically not good for 20 seconds. So you definitely want to make the most of his shields. But he's a CC monster. He has a rewind that no one else has. He can completely just remove any damage that he just took for the last couple of seconds. His shield is the only thing that can directly counter some ultimates, literally eat them out of existence. Great damage, great poke. Some of the best range out of any of the tanks, barring maybe Slugshot Ashe or old Tinker and Barrack. And his ultimate, if you can use it well, you can, again, just take a healer out of the fight, take a backline out of the fight, remove them as a threat to let your team execute in a way they wouldn't have been able to before. Atlas, with a good team, can do a lot, and even without a good team, if you're playing him in the off lane, you can deny off-tank aggression and just control that space and hope that the other side of the map goes well, and you can even help with the other side of the map with damage. Again, I'm gonna preface, still for PPC, so whoop. Ruckus, for as a dive champion, is fantastic. He wins most of his 1v1s, combining the rockets, combining the damage reduction, combining the shield. He can just dive into the backline again, just like ROM, except with a little bit less sustain and more about the raw damage output. So riskier, but still does the job well. Okay ultimate, hard to set up against good players. Or there are ways for them to deal with it, of course, but you can still control space, make it significantly harder. for them to take that ground. So Ruckus, I think, mobile, dive, good there. And Torvald, the character that everybody thought was just dead. After Wrecker nerfs, he still does, I think, a fantastic job at what he does, which is counter dive and pockets. So he can pocket a DPS, give them heals, give them speed, give them ammo, all these utilities that are the same reason why other supports are good, but on a tank. So tanky health pool, not very mobile. You don't play him like you would play an Ashe, like you would play a Rom, a Ruckus. You play him as a counter dive kind of peel champion. If your team is a little death ball-y, Torvald is great. Pair him with a flanker. Let your flanker kind of go nuts with your Torv kind of hovering near your support. Save people. Wonderful champion if played at that level. Trying to remember where I put all these characters before I keep going. I think I have Term here. Term could be A+ or A. I'm just going to put him A because I forgot where I put him, and it's going to look more even when I have 3 champions in each tier to start. Terminus could be A+. He is a counter pick to Vivian, and in general, he's just a really solid point tank to fight into Inara. He can get siphoned back by swinging on her. He can just negate damage. Really hard to play when you're surrounded, but his burst damage is there, something that a lot of other tanks don't really have. He is a completely nullifier of damage, which is a great, I think, point of value to use. You can deny backlines, you can deny flankers, good into blasters, and one of the better ultimates as long as they don't have a hard counter on the other team, whether it be Atlas, Androxus, or Dredge to deal with you. Although Resilience counters setback countering Terminus ult, by the way, so please, if you play against an Atlas and you're playing Terminus, just rush Resil and you'll be able to res, and they literally can't stop you. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. But Term, I think, second best point tank. Can be countered. You might want to run a shield point tank instead, but Term can still do whatever he needs to do. Shwoop. Nando. After the shield buffs, he is a phenomenal point tank and an okay off tank. I would definitely play him on point instead. Struggles a little bit into Term if they run Crush or something like that, but you can just have a shield every 4 seconds. I think it's every like 3.2 seconds if you get Chronos 3. Amazing ultimate. One of the best in the game, arguably. You can literally counter any play. You can counter anything that's going on. You just say, hey, no one can die. If you're playing well around your team, or again, this tier list is kind of leaning towards PPC. Using it in a team play, use it maybe to pocket a King Bomb as he goes in aggressively. You can use Nando in general just to shield on a DPS and make a lot of room that way. I think just in general, Nando, very, very solid with a good team. He has a lot of utility and great to defend himself. Khan lost 0.8 seconds on his stun. Yes, it got rid of this super oppressive kind of stun presence that he had, where he could just deny space merely by existing. He could just be in Quarry, and it's like, all right, well, we can't go in Quarry. We're just going to get owned, I guess, and there's nothing they can really do in there. I think now Khan, having Storm of Bullets, being more of a lifesteal bully, he still has all his sustain. He still has a shield that recharges pretty quickly, and he can put up and down to counter damage as it comes in. He can still deny massive burst damage with Shout, and tank CC with that. Khan still has a lot of flexibility if you're good with him. And players at the level that I'm talking about are going to be good with him, so he'll still be able to buy that. And of course, he has Overpower. It's still good. Overpower is not bad. Still going to be solid. You're still executing someone effectively. Even if there is counterplay, you're still going to take someone out of the fight most of the time. So I think great with that. Now B tier, B for Barrick. You're probably winning it with him in ranked. Players probably aren't punishing you in ranked. Apparently, if you're in Brazil, you're winning with him. But the problem with him is he's really just his shield. He has damage, but when you pick a point tank, you're not picking a point tank for damage. You're picking a point tank to sustain. You're picking a point tank to control space, and Barrick has to give up space so quickly under pressure. That's why he's down there. He can still outbox some champions when they try to fight him. Just Inara kind of beats him, and Inara doesn't really get banned a lot of the time. His ultimate is great for controlling space. I think you can spend Dome Shield. They can't really fight you. Some tanks can just walk into it, but if you're using it in a fight that's already been chaotic, they might not have the health pool to do it. The one thing people talk about, turret reset. If you're playing against a team that is some blasters and you can put down those turrets and force the turrets to get destroyed, so that you can get your cooldown resets. That can work too, but a good team, especially with all these console DPS running around with these hit scans, you have a massive head, you have the lowest health pool out of all the tanks, you can just get deleted on Barrack. His damage kind of meaningless in the end of the game, but again, he is still playable. Dome Shield is still decent. You just need to kind of play him and know how little damage you can take and play off of his kind of slow sustain here. And I had him in C tier before this. Assume he's in C tier. I just don't want to scroll down. I'll scroll down at the end, but Makoa is a counter pick, but he struggles everywhere else. Hook is still a good ability. I mean, Hook's still fine. You know, it's still Hook. But again, just like Barrack, his skull is huge. He takes so much damage from all these hit scans that are running rampant right now that he doesn't live very long. You use Ancient Rage, but if you don't have a speed boost already, which you only have from kind of a snowball anyway, you're not doing anything out of it. You're just getting shredded. 9,000 health is not that much in a meta with as much damage as there is right now. So I think Makoa really struggles. We're going to move him down here to... I'm going to hold him right here so you know he's in C, even though I don't want to scroll down. But definitely a tough one, I think, to play right now. Still playable into Terminus. You can hook him through his Siphon. Into Androxus, you could hook him through his Reversal. But just not getting away with as much as he was before. People can maybe say, oh, shield Makoa, you know, run half shell, put it in this choke point, and then they have to destroy this. But if they're shooting your half shell, they're making mistakes. If they're giving you 10 seconds off of your cooldown, that's not Makoa being good. That's the enemy team being bad. And if we're talking about a competitive level, you're not going to rely on the enemy team being bad. Similar problem with Barrack, where you're saying you're running the shield card, or sorry, the turret card to reset your cooldowns. If they're breaking your turrets, unless they're running a blaster or a character that they literally can't avoid breaking your turrets, that's not on Barrack being good, that's on the enemy team being bad. If there is counterplay to your strategy that will make your character worse the higher you go in elo or in just competitive play in general. So I think Makoa, C tier, but still playable in some situations. Barrack, B tier, trades into point tanks okay, but gets outboxed by some of the meta ones right now, and his damage doesn't really matter a lot of the time. And everyone else, I kind of talked through them. So, PPC focused. You can play these characters in ranked in this order if you want, but anything can win in ranked if you're good enough with it, or if you have a good enough team, or if you get the cheater on your team thanks to the matchmaking. I might make a full tier list if you guys want of everything, but I've done all the 3 roles, and I think the game is kind of situational enough where you don't necessarily need that. Look at your role, go from there, and just try to be flexible at the end of the day. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.